It's our first guest episode.
So hi Francis, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I remember exactly what I wore.
Have you ever seen the tapes? Do you think they exist somewhere? I reckon there's a cupboard somewhere in this building where we're going to find the tapes of you telling us why you like gardening in a minute.
With Gardener's World, you had to do the interview and you had to say kind of why you loved gardening. Has it changed from then to now?
I can't even remember what I said. I was too busy panicking.
You just couldn't love your garden or Gardener's World.
Hello, I'm Martha Swales. You may well know me from Instagram as Marth's Kitchen Garden, where I celebrate the best of growing your own in my little London garden.
And I'm Jamie Walton, otherwise known as Nettles and Petals. And I'm an ecological horticulturalist, which means I basically grow food and flowers in line with nature.
This is a podcast for anyone looking for a little bit more connection with nature.
Whether that's growing your own food, wildlife gardening, or the folklore of wildflowers.
Welcome to Homegrown. On this week's episode of Homegrown, we're doing something a bit different and I'm very excited.
Me too.
It's our first guest episode.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised how many times I'm asked who my favourite Gardener's World presenter is. But every time I'm asked, our guest is my answer.
Do you know what? No one's ever asked me that.
Really?
I don't know why.
Honestly,
now I feel a bit left
book
out.
talks, just in the street, people ask me that question all the time.
Well, somebody come up and ask me who my favourite Gardener's World presenter is, please. So our guest this week is a fantastic gardener, horticulturalist, author, presenter, and all-round absolutely lovely human.
She is.
It is, of course, Frances Tophill. So we had the absolute pleasure of talking to Frances, and you've met her before and I haven't, but she was everything I hoped she would be and more.
I've met her once before that and I had the same experience.
I think the conversation that we had today was just what I love about gardening and why I think that the word gardening doesn't do justice to everything kind of in this sphere, which is that we've gone off on some really fascinating tangents and I definitely learned a lot. So
Yeah.
I hope you guys are going to love it.
And we tried to be really professional and we had cards with questions. Didn't even look at them once, I don't think.
No.
No, so, which is nice.
Yeah, it
Means it was a good conversation.
She was so easy to talk to and I'd like to have her back on the podcast again soon.
Me too.
Before we go to that chat with Frances, we've started to get in some emails.
We have quite a few. Really nice ones as well. And a lot of detail.
We love hearing from you. So drop us an email at homegrown@joypeddlers.com and feel free to send us a story about your garden, pictures of where you're growing. Let us know where in the world you are. And after this episode, why not let us know if you've got any other guests you'd like us to have on the show?
Yeah. The first one actually was some lovely pictures of hedgehogs. Oh. So we did ask and Kim sent us in a couple of pictures of hedgehogs enjoying some dog food. Very cute.
Has she written a little message?
Yeah, she said, just listen to your question and answer podcast. I'm a few weeks behind. We've had 2 hedgehogs in our garden this year. They would come onto the patio most nights for their meal of dog food. Loving the podcasts.
Oh, and the pictures, I think they look like little baby hedgehogs. Of course,
They
as
are
I've
very
said,
cute.
I've never actually seen a real life live hedgehog, so that might be the full-sized version. I like to imagine they're little baby hedgehogs.
They do look quite small though, yeah.
Well, thankfully they've had a good meal in them, so they'll be expanding in no time.
So we'll put that up on social media so you can all see the lovely hedgehogs.
I've got one here from AD who has said, afternoon. Following on from the podcast, I am with Jamie. Crown Prince is my fave and we have been growing it for many a year. One of our favourite products we make and always look forward to more than any other... roasted squash bread.
I've never tried it.
No, it's super tasty. It goes really well with homemade soup and other dishes. My granddaughter Ivy May, who has just turned 1, absolutely loves it. Oh, that's so cute. Keep up the good work on the podcast. All the best, AD. And they've sent a picture of the bread, which does look very delicious. And now I just keep trying to imagine like what the texture is. Is it sweet?
I think we need the recipe.
Yeah, I think if you could just send us in the recipe so we can have a go at that. That is fantastic. I love the idea of putting squash into other things. I know we talked about this, but like I love a bread and butter pumpkin pie pudding thing. But yeah, bread, I never would have thought.
Me either. Interesting.
Right, so there we go. A few little emails, love that. And should we get into the chat with Frances?
We better get into the chat with Frances, yeah. Hi, Frances. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, well, today we're going to talk about all sorts of things. Thank you so much for coming and joining us, Frances.
That's a pleasure. It's nice to be in London.
Exactly.
Big city.
Little trip down here. I know you know Jamie already. You two have met before.
Yeah,
We
we
met
met
for the
before.
first time at the Garden Media
We
Awards.
did, last year.
That was a daunting experience.
It must have been a really weird experience for you, sort of
Yeah.
coming into that. I always find it
Into that
slightly
world,
strange.
yeah. And
Yeah,
I was on the
but-
RHS table with you, actually.
Yes.
And I didn't know anyone. I recognised you and a couple of others. So and I was up for an award. So I was really nervous.
You won an award,
And
I believe.
I did win an award, which is great. But I remember thinking, you look so lovely on TV. I hope she's so lovely in person. And you were.
Just big
Turned out to
disappointment.
be
You were. You made me
horrible.
feel really, really comfortable.
Okay,
we had a
good.
nice chat and
Yeah.
put me at ease a little bit. I was still very nervous.
Yeah.
I really wanted to win the award, but I didn't want to have to walk up and get it.
I
was the
know
thing.
that feeling. I think I was up for an award once there and I had exactly the same thing and I didn't win it, which I was really glad about
Just
actually
so
when
you
it
didn't
came
have to walk up to the front. I just
go-
forgot how to walk around the.
Yeah.
Do you know, 'cause you have to go around the tables.
It's quite an
and
assault
everyone was
course, isn't
watching
it?
and,
There's
yeah.
lots and lots of people. But
Yeah, I was just very glad I didn't have to do a speech.
Yes. Well, I think this is the thing that we probably all feel is like, when you're a gardener or just a person who enjoys working with plants, you're not necessarily so confident with people.
No.
And so we all end up in these really weird positions where we're suddenly having to be really kind of like socially dynamic. And
Yeah.
actually, we
Just wanna be in the garden.
I just want
Me
to be
too.
with my
Cup of tea.
potatoes.
I'm
Yeah,
quite
exactly.
introverted, so when I'm in the
Yeah.
garden, I'm okay because I'm just talking to my phone. There's
Yeah.
just plants around. Whereas,
Yeah.
even doing things like this, it's kind of a bit more of a.
Totally. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like I've learned to style it out because
Yeah.
I'm also really introverted and I was painfully shy. Like when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, I used to play in a band with my sisters and I would
Amazing.
like hide. I did a bit of guitar and sing harmonies and stuff, but I would be like at the back literally hiding only in a pub, it wasn't like anything grand. Because I'm so shy and I hate performing. And then suddenly I found myself in this world where I have to do it. And I
Yeah.
just feel like I'm constantly just styling it out and pretending this is normal.
Well, you do
exactly
a
the same.
fantastic job of it. How did you get from being incredibly shy then to being on telly?
In a rare, I was going to say, in a rare idiotic moment. They're actually quite common.
I'm sure it was an idiotic. Look where it arrived at.
In a moment when I was so I studied horticulture at Edinburgh Botanics and
Wow.
the Agriculture College up in Edinburgh, and I basically they sent out Spungold, who made Love Your Garden with Alan Titchmarsh, sent out an email to all the horticulture colleges in the country to see if anybody fancied joining the team. I think it was in its second series then, and me and some friends were like, yeah, that sounds. I think it was when Monty Don was doing that Around the World in 80 Gardens thing. And I remember walking to the pub with some friends and being like, that looks like the world's easiest job. You get literally paid to travel around the world and talk about plants. So we all then kind of applied for this job and came down to London and did this screen test. And I remember all of us coming away thinking it was the worst thing we'd ever done. It wasn't easy at all.
What did they get you to do?
I had to talk for 1 minute to a camera about why I love gardening, and then they put us into groups and I had to turn a palette into a kind of gardening feature with some little plants that they'd bought with a group of
Nice.
people.
Have you ever seen the tapes? Do you think they
No.
exist somewhere?
I don't know. They probably weren't
Yeah, they
even
must
really
do.
recording, were
There
they?
must
I
be an
mean, like, they
archive.
must have been-
We're in the same building, actually.
Yeah, that's true.
I reckon there's a cupboard somewhere in this building where we're going to find the tapes of you telling us why you like gardening in a minute.
It was fine. And then I had to go back to the exec's house and do some with a project to plant with Katie Rushworth, who ended up being the other presenter, and two others. And I remember my housemates who were two agriculture students who were 19 at the time advised me about what I should wear. So I was doing a fashion show with my housemates, being like, "What do you think?" They told me I remember exactly what I wore. It's these yellow wellies and a little kind of mini dress. Now I
worked.
would
It
never
It
wear that.
worked. I reckon the
It
yellow
worked.
wellies, it's good to stand out.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they were just my work boots because I think they were the cheapest steel toe caps I could get. I think they were £13.99 or something like that. And so that was what I went to college in.
Nice.
And so I just wore them. But they became a bit of a thing. I had to ditch the yellow wellies in the end.
And when you got the call to say you had the job,
Yeah.
were you just terrified or were you a bit excited?
Absolutely. No.
Not so excited
No,
at all.
I could not string a sentence together in front of the camera. It was like, and it's not just a camera, because I think people always think it's scary to do it in front of a camera, but there's
the
so
people.
many other
Yeah.
people.
Oh, it's the
there.
people.
There's
See, if it's just-
so many people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm TV producer and director, so I know how. I think presenting is incredibly difficult. I always think actually like everyone else gets to hide, no one else knows you're there, but if you're actually in front of camera and you've got to carry it and you've got to you're the one that's gonna be on the receiving end if anyone thinks you've done something wrong, or like, you know, it's really tough.
See, I love the job of working in TV, because you get to see amazing things, you get to learn so much from people, but being the person who people see is a weird one, especially when you are shy, because I quite like my anonymity as well. So you're like, you know, people know who you are, and they also think it's all on you. If you kind of do something they don't like, they think that's your fault. If you do something that they do like, then you're not crediting the other people who have worked behind the scenes to get that there. And it's a big team effort, really. I feel like there's no other job where I worked in shops before, I've worked in bars, but as a gardener, even if I don't turn up, someone else can open the polytunnel in the morning, or turn the compost. But in TV, if the sound recordist or the camera or the producer or the editor or anyone doesn't turn up, then the whole thing falls apart, you know. So it's a proper team, and I'm the one that people see and blame or thank. And actually, I feel like it's a bit of imposter syndrome, because I've not actually been the one that's worked the hardest to put that together.
Well, no, like you said, I think everyone kind of has their role. But I think, being in front of the camera is tough, but people just don't realise. Yeah, I've had people be like, oh, why do you have to go with the presenter to a shoot?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think they're going to say if we don't go and like talk to them about what it is we're, you know?
But
so
I have a really good friend who's a cameraman, and he said that his mum rings him and goes, oh, I watched this thing, you'll never guess what happened. He's like, no, I know what happened. I filmed it. She's like, no, but see, they had this thing and they couldn't bring it back. And he's kind of going, how does she think she's seeing? But people, it's lovely because it's magic. That's the magic of TV, isn't it?
Yeah.
That people forget that there's everyone else there, and you can never film the crew because no one wants to remember that that's what's happening. But you know, it is.
It's a very different experience. I remember because I'd only made content, and then Gardener's World came to film at the garden I'd set up, and there was 5 people there, and I had to keep saying the same thing over and over again, and so from different angles, and it was just a very different experience. I think we were filming for 14 hours for what became 7 minutes of TV.
That's pretty standard, I would say.
Yes, I can say it definitely.
Whereas when it's content, I kind of sometimes just prop my phone up and
that's it.
So I mean,
well, although making content,
sometimes it depends. It very much
the editing, sure, but I mean, it is a completely different thing in your editing, and you know, you have that creative element where, you know, in TV you kind of don't. You're sort of a bit out of control, aren't you? Which is a bit scary.
It goes off and then it's on the telly and you don't know what bits they've chosen for you to say.
I was really nervous to see what it would turn
they've done
out
with
like.
it.
Yeah, because 14 hours I'd kind of forgotten everything that I'd said, really.
Even though you said it 20 times.
Yeah.
I think that was the biggest shock when I first did anything on TV, was arriving. I remember it so well, like it's traumatized onto my brain, and I had to convince myself the whole time that it was just... I remember going, like, you know, to my friend Nick's house for a cup of tea in Edinburgh, and then being like, I'm just going to go catch a train. I'm just on a train. And then I'd kind of like get off the train and go to a hotel, which I'd never stayed in a hotel in my life before. And I'd be like, I'm just going to a hotel, it's fine. And then it wasn't until there was a camera in front of me and someone said action that I had to actually accept I was about to present something.
Yeah.
I had to plant a box ball in a red container. I had to drill a hole in the bottom of it, fill it with compost, and then put a single plant in. And that was all I did on that whole show. And I remember doing it, chatting it through, and then being like, oh, thank God it's done. And then someone said, okay, great, let's do the whole thing again. And I was like, what?
But from a different angle.
And then people were saying, which hand did you pick the drill up with? And I was like, I have no idea. And then other people go, oh, it was her left hand. And people, you know, that thing of again and again and again to get all the different shots, it just do not
I pulled
realise.
out a carrot, I think 4 times.
The same carrot?
Yeah, back in and back.
I feel bad because I'm usually the person that's asking the person to do it over and over again. Or indeed, when I was junior, the one that was meant to write down what hand they'd pick something up with, and then if I didn't remember, I was in trouble.
Yeah.
How old were you when you were first? I mean, that's young to be suddenly having to like have an authority on something that presumably you'd only recently studied and like.
I was 23 when I first did TV. and I'd been a gardener since I was 19, but I was still doing my degree. So, I had kind of an apprenticeship and was learning about botany and horticulture. So I didn't feel like an authority. I mean, I don't know any 23-year-old that does, but I remember going to do talks and stuff again, that's a whole nother level of terror, but
talks are just
doing talks.
Terrifying.
and people would introduce me as a gardening expert, and I'd be like, oh, please don't say but I also feel like as gardeners, we're always learning, and I quite love that.
Yeah.
This is a job where you never know everything, and it's it's just have to remember to be open-minded to when people correct you, that you can kind of go, okay, cool, that's really cool, I've learned something, rather than being defensive. I think as soon as you think that you know everything, then you've shut yourself off to learning new stuff, which is the joy of this.
It's always like the more you know, the more you realise you don't know. It's like at the beginning you kind of have this like, right, I think I've mastered this, and then you realise this, and it just becomes like a bigger thing, doesn't it, over time?
Yeah, totally.
Shall we do a bit of this or that? I know we were going to do it at the top, but we didn't. So
let's go for it.
Francis, if you're up for it, we're going to ask a few this or that questions.
Okay, I don't know what that means, but let's
We're going to ask you one thing or another thing.
Okay.
So this or that. The first one is nettles or dandelions?
Oh, that's really hard. I want both, just to be clear. I want both.
Okay.
Nettles.
If you had to,
I'd
nettles.
have to go nettles.
Okay.
You can eat them. They're good for fertiliser. You can use every bit of them. Fabric making.
All great reasons.
I mean, I'll take both.
Plants, edible or ornamental?
Edible.
That was an easy one.
Useful.
Yes, useful. I like
Something
I think,
useful about them.
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Spring or autumn?
Spring.
Oh.
Both though, again.
Yeah.
Both, but spring.
Cats or dogs?
Oh, that's a really difficult one. I have a dog, but that's because I travel around in my van a lot, and you can't take a cat with you. But in my heart, probably cats.
Really?
Maybe.
I'd go dogs.
You see those TikToks though where people have... I've tried to take a cat out on a lead before though, and I can tell you they hate it, don't they?
I love cats. I was raised with cats. We were talking about this just now. Like, my aunt had 20 at one time in her life. I was raised with cats. I used to think when I was a kid that I could actually talk to cats and that they understood me. I feel like I had a real thing with cats.
Maybe you are a witch.
Maybe. But then they eat so many birds and mice and that. I really... Frogs. I've come now to really bond with dogs, and I love dogs, and they're so great. But I feel like that little... I don't know, it's really tough. But for me now in my life, with my travelling and whatever else I do, it has to be dogs.
Yeah, I've got a friend who actually has a cat on a lead.
Really?
Like with a harness,
Sometimes they do,
He takes his cat out for a walk.
Does he take it around and about living in a van?
I've seen it on social media. It must be true. I can recommend having a very lazy cat that just sleeps on the sofa, because he's much less dangerous to... Yeah. He couldn't be bothered to catch birds if he tried.
To be fair, I have a lurcher, which is basically a cat in dog form. Oh. They're so lazy. So, yeah.
Organised or messy?
Well, see, I don't necessarily see them as the same. Not organised. I'm so dyslexic. Organisation is the one thing I've never mastered. I've learned to write. I've learned to kind of use spell check. But I cannot organise myself. If I lose my passport and need to apply for a new one, I can't, because I've also lost my driving licence and my birth certificate.
I'm exactly the same.
Me.
I'm dyslexic too, so I feel you.
It's a nightmare. But I also don't like mess, because I feel like if there's chaos, there's even less chance of being organised.
Yeah.
So,
the impossible conundrum.
I can't answer that question.
Too hot or too cold?
Too cold.
You prefer to be too cold?
I prefer to be too cold.
Yeah.
You can't cool down when you're too hot, whereas if you're cold, you can just work a bit harder and you can warm up.
I think that's classic gardener. Out in winter, happy to be cold any day of the week.
I also love being hot. I think that's why I make quite a good outdoor worker, because I'm pretty good at regulating my body temperature. So if I'm cold, I never really get that cold, and I can work in really extreme heat and be fine as well. Yeah. So that's quite lucky.
So working outside over working in the tunnel?
Oh, no, I'm even happy in a tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just bring it on. Any kind of weather, you're ready for it.
I worked in Monet's garden for a summer, and there was a week when it was 43 degrees and I was actually fine, and my little sister came in and volunteered for 20 minutes, and then she had to go in and lie I came home from my day shift and she was lying in her underwear in a fan in my room being like, I'm so hot. So I think, I can cope with both, but I would rather too cold.
Okay.
But 43 degrees is no joke.
It was intense.
Polytunnels. And the last one, love your garden or gardener's world?
Oh my God, that's such a hard question.
You don't have to answer that one if you don't want to.
It's a difficult one. The thing is, Love Your Garden was such a family. Like, some of my closest friends are from Love Your Garden, and we got to go and work and build a garden together.
Yeah.
Which was like hanging out with your mates for 2 days. So in terms of like the job, Love Your Garden, but I learn so much on Gardener's World, and that is amazing.
Good answer.
I
that was
avoided
very diplomatic.
good avoidance.
I'm interested as well. You mentioned that with Gardener's World, you had to do the interview and you had to say kind of why you loved gardening. Has it changed from then to now?
I can't even remember what I said. I was too busy panicking.
Made something up on the fly and it
It's
worked.
been fantastic.
I feel like the reasons I love gardening haven't really fundamentally changed. I love being physically busy. I love being out. I mean, I not just love being outside. I need to be outside. I get really, I think, unhappy if I'm stuck indoors for too long. I love being creative. I love watching things growing. I love getting messy. Like, all those things are still the same. I think I learn more nuanced plants and relationships, and about like the history of horticulture and humanity has grown. But essentially it's the same thing, I think.
Yeah.
I always think with gardening, it's the creativity that I think people overlook if they haven't done gardening, or, you know, the idea that people have of gardening if you're not a gardener. But like, I think it's just so endlessly creative. It's kind of like, for me, cooking, they're quite similar sorts of things.
It's interesting because I studied fine art as well, so I spent a lot of time in the studio. But now I don't really paint or draw or do much because I feel like the gardening.
Do you think it fills that?
It fills that creative void, I think.
Yeah, I found myself not doing that much creativity, which I feel like for me, creativity is kind of my life force. Gardening is my outlet, which I happened across, and I love it. But I also still need I do pottery. I've always done pottery, which is basically playing with mud. It's the same thing as gardening, you know.
I did a lot of uni. I haven't done a lot since, but I love ceramics.
I have come to the conclusion that gardeners and potters are always potters do gardening. And my theory about this is that when you're a gardener, you're always chasing your tail. The to-do list never ends, because as soon as you've done something, it's beginning to grow back already. It's a very active physical job. And doing pottery, especially if you're throwing, which is what I love to do, you're so still. The whole object is to find stillness and a center and just sit and focus on that stillness. And so you need both. If you're just, as a gardener, to be able to shut my brain off and be like, I'm not going to worry about who's watered that thing or whether I've sown those seeds or if they've been pricked out yet. I'm just going to focus on making this lump of mud still.
Yeah.
And then when you're a potter, you get so tired of sitting down all day that you just want to get out in the fresh air and move around. So they kind of go together. That's my theory.
Something I struggled with was that you put it in the kiln and you don't necessarily know if it's going to come out.
But again, like, you plant a plant in the ground, you don't know if it's going to grow. It's very similar lack of control. It took me a while to accepting chaos.
The ephemeral nature of both of them.
Do you ever come up, because I've been recently thinking about wanting to get into pottery. I haven't really done much before, but it's mainly because I keep coming up with things that I want to create, like something out of pottery that I could grow mushrooms in rather than having to but like, is there anything that you've made for the garden or for some sort of use in the garden with the pottery, or do you keep the actual uses of them quite separate?
I have made a couple of things, but I'm more about function with everything. I think I've got this real issue. So I've just got so many mugs, which are still useful in the garden. We all need a cup of tea.
Counts, I think.
But I recently actually did a pottery course that I helped not quite run it, but I was there as a gardener with other people doing pottery, and it was about barrel firing, which I'd never done before. So you you make something, you burnish it really shinily, and then you stick it in like a little kind of
those little bins,
like a bin with holes in the
bottom.
Is it kind of like a raku firing? Is that
kind of like that, but without glaze?
Okay.
But you wrap it in stuff.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to this, it was specifically a gardening pottery course, and ended up making something completely useless, which was like a goddess. I ended up making this lady that was like, and I wrapped her in all these symbolic things like poo, cow poo, which was about like, she had a big smile, and all these other women on the course were going like, I don't like her face. It's like, no, she has to have a smile, because it was about like cultivating sort of like a gratitude, like whatever rubbish. There were weeds in there was seaweed in there, because I grew up by the sea. There was poo, because like life sometimes is a bit pooey. And I wrapped her in a bit of wire, and like there was a lot of like all the bad and all the good, and then you wrapped it up, and then you threw it in the fire and just let the colours of whatever you'd wrapped her in. And I don't know why, but I really enjoyed making something completely useless.
That's
and
really
it was
cool.
like a symbol of like, this is what I want to cultivate, like going into life as this lady, this big smiley. She was also really fat, because she like enjoyed all the things life through. It was just kind of like,
I love
How did she turn out?
Yeah, where is she now?
she is going to be in my garden. She was a garden goddess, but they're not okay to be outside in the winter, so she's currently sitting on like my bread bin.
Comes in for
to
winter
go out.
hibernation.
But but I actually really enjoyed making something completely useless and symbolic, rather than being tied to this functional thing that I have.
One of my dreams is to have a little coffee and herbal tea shop, and in the back you can throw mugs and little plant pots and sell plants and make the pots for them.
Are you going to attach this to the community?
Yeah.
Jamie's never short of fantastic ideas, and I always wonder how you're going to fit them all in. But I guess this could all be part of the master plan: community garden, pottery.
Yeah.
Will you grow all your own sort of tea blends?
Or most of them. That'd be the plan.
That's such a good idea.
That'd be nice. And just sit in the back, just making pots.
It sounds so
and
lovely.
mugs.
That'd be, if you could sit still for 5 minutes, not have a million things going on.
You have to. That's the point.
Yeah.
It forces us to slow down and stop and just be still.
You've got a new book out at the moment, Francis, a Wildflower Year, and in there you talk about doing flower pressing as well. Well, I'm intrigued to know, where do you put them into? What do you do with your wildflowers once you've pressed? Yeah, and you made your own
still
press.
in the press.
Yeah.
I did get some of those glass frames, and so some of them are on the wall in glass frames, because I didn't really know what to do with them. I mean, part of it was, so this book was my idea because of pressing flowers. So basically, obviously, having a dog, you have to walk every day, and I kind of found myself noticing flowers that I'd not really noticed before. I'm sure they were there, and I kind of saw them as this kind of white noise of we all get plant blindness. And I made this flower press. I think it was a lockdown project, and I really enjoyed it, because normally my staying power is not great. I'll kind of do something for the day, I'll get hyper focused on it, and then if I don't finish it, I'll probably never finish it. I've got quite a lot of half-made quilts and jumpers.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But I actually did this for 3 whole days.
Do you know, as you were saying that, and I was thinking about you talking about being dyslexic, and I just always come back to this thing that I think gardening and like neurodivergency is such a kind of like marriage, isn't it? Because I don't know any gardeners that aren't like, I'm doing a million things, I've started this, I've taken up a new hobby, I've stopped doing that, and I need to go into the garden just to like, ground yourself.
Yeah.
And you're never short of things to do, are you?
No, there's always more. I mean, I think it can be quite stressful as well. And I'm always quite keen to say this, because I feel like, especially, garden media, of which I am now a part of that, are guilty of kind of talking a lot about how it benefits mental health. And it does. It's amazing. But it can also be incredibly stressful when things don't work. When you plant something and it dies, or you've actually planted too many seeds and you're a bit overwhelmed with seedlings, you don't know what to do with them, and they're all bolting in their cells or whatever. So there is this kind of idea that you're never done when you're gardening.
No.
I think that can be a lot.
The overwhelm is so real. I mean, I've just been away for a couple of weeks, but even just being away from it, feeling like you can't be away, and then you come back, and then something's died, or you missed a window, or and then the kind of devastation of something that started off so well, that then. I think that's the thing. When I talk to people about gardening for the first time, I think they have to go into it with not too many expectations, because when people fail, they want to give up.
Well, it's also, I had a new allotment this year, and it was such a cool space. I spent all last winter clearing it, weeding it, I put a shed on it, it was really exciting. And I got so ahead in the spring with all my seedlings. I did really well. And I've had exactly the same thing, where I actually have now concluded that the ground is either really depleted, it is certainly very shady in the summer, or there may even be a little bit of contamination because I think it's an old industrial site.
Residual.
And nothing grew. And all these things, and I put them in the ground and they sat there for about 2 months and just not really growing. And I did eventually get a crop of runner beans. I didn't get a single squash from 8 plants. You know, there was a lot of disappointment. And now I've got that myself, you know, even though I know that. And it's really just like, oh.
And you think, what could I have? Because I had a new plot this year as well. And it's in a community garden on my estate. And it looked fantastic when I had it all set up. And so much stuff didn't do well. I hadn't really realised it's a massive wind tunnel. So there was like huge amount of wind coming through. And it was really dry. I wasn't watering enough. And then you start to think, you know, but equally in a new site, someone could plonk something in the ground and it grows really well. It's sort of like that idea that we can do our best, but it's not really us that's in control.
It's also experiment, isn't it? You know, the first year is with that soil, you just don't know what you've got. So you have to sort of do that. And now we know how important soil is and how vital. And I did a Gardener's World the other day where I was hosting it and I had to watch all the films that came in. And Nick Bailey did a film, he's doing a lot about science. He did a film about light. And I watched it, I was like, that's what my plants look like. I was like, oh, maybe it was the shade. You know, it sounds really obvious, but it's,
It's like a lab though, isn't it? I think it's like, it is really science in action because there's so many variables. And I think that's what I love about gardening is you look at something and you think, why has that happened? Or why if I plant something in that pot, it's done different to that? And I think that's kind of one of the things that I love about it, that constant learning by doing. There's only so much you can read because ultimately everything's different in the different sort of situations.
Definitely.
My aspiration one day is to get to the point when I just know. You know, I remember working in a garden, it was a market garden. We did ornamental grasses, but also it was a big market garden, so loads of veg. And it was adults with learning disabilities that would come each day. And I was quite new in sort of finished my degree, but I was now working as a gardener all the time and I was doing filming as well. It was a great job. But I remember sowing cucumbers and saying to my boss, Ian, like, how do you know that now's the time? He was like, I don't know, you just know. It's that thing of when gardeners become so inherently in tune with the season, that they just know that now, like rather than using a spreadsheet to kind of go April week 2, I'm going to sow my squash or whatever, just to go, actually, it's kind of warmed up. I feel that everything's a bit warmer. I'm going to sow my cucumbers.
There's so much variability now when it comes to the seasons as well. Like this year, it's the driest on record, hasn't it? So it's with no mains. We're talking about struggles. Mine's been water this year.
Yes, because you don't have mains water.
No, so that's been a struggle.
And there was no rain to store water.
No.
Actually, that's something that you mentioned in the book, was that idea that like obviously it's organised by the kind of months, but actually really now it's just whenever they kind of appear. Plants have been moving so much with kind of as an indication of how climate's changing and things.
Yeah, I do feel that. And I also feel like we maybe aren't always right. And you think about the variability within just this country, you know, that where I am in the southwest of England is obviously milder. But I'm living on the edge of Dartmoor, which is much, much cooler. But then, you know, someone might be in the north of England or they might be in Scotland. And things are very, very different. So the thought that we somehow are wedded to month by month is so untrue, you know? And it's, you know, these symbols of spring, which is what a lot of plants are that are in the book, are kind of whenever they come out. You know, it might be May or it might be April or it might be January if we have a mild winter, you know.
I was doing a show once where I had to be in the Isle of Wight one week and I was right up in like Aberdeen the following week. And that's when I really realised, because like all the daffodils were out down in the Isle of Wight, like had been for weeks. You go up there, they're not even like poking above the surface. And I was like, never before had I been struck, because it was that moment in the season where there was so much difference. By just how different it is from one place. Well, between our gardens.
Yeah, even between North Yorkshire and you, Pickering.
In the book, Frances, just tell us a bit about it, but there is you do a bit of folklore for each different flower.
What I did was, obviously, this was a year of my kind of mooching up and down the country and whatever job I was doing, and encountering plants and then having to pick 60 to whittle it down to 60 from, as you can probably imagine, a really long list. And so what I did was I looked at each plant and its merits. Some of them have got just a really nice story in my life, you know, like one particular one I remember, common milkweed was in Ireland. I was there, and really sadly I was over in Ireland to work for a week. Well, I was there working for a day, but I decided to make a week's holiday of it. My dad's side of the family are from Cork, and my dog is from Cork. So me and my dog took my van to Ireland and did a little let's go to the ancestral or your actual home. And made a little holiday of that kind of southwest peninsula of Ireland. And on the last day of the holiday, my family dog, my mum's dog Moses, was put to sleep. And I couldn't be there. And so I knew the vet's appointment was happening. And I just went and sat on the beach at Rosslare Harbour, sort of near there, waiting for my ferry. And made a little cross out of driftwood and kind of sat on the beach and had a little cry about Moses. And this common milkweed was sort of next to me. And then the weirdest thing was that as I walked back from that beach through the woods, it was this really lovely sand dune woods with a very resonant floor. But it was like I kept looking around, and my dog kept looking around because it sounded like there was a whole nother set of something walking with us. And it was like, and it really weirdly, because Moses was a really antisocial dog. My sister found him as a puppy, and he just was really, so Rua, my dog, was his only dog friend. And so I sort of had this sort of like, if he was saying goodbye to anyone, it would be Rua that he had come. And so we walked all the way through the woods with this extra set of prints. And then at the end, I was like, anyway, cheers, Moses. It's been lovely, but you can go. And it literally heard footprints running off. And it was like, whoa. So the common milkweed is not a particularly interesting plant, but that had to go in.
Yeah, of course.
But a lot of them, it was the folklore that got me.
Yeah.
So it's like the history of this plant. A lot of them medicinal, a lot of them kind of stories. You know, we were talking a little bit before about, you know, things that make you die. Like you bring something in the house and you'll die.
The folklore is always about it in a bouquet, bad, get it out, on a wreath, bring it in your house, die. Everyone's dying all the time. Death, it seems to be the most
people were
prevalent.
very afraid of death. I guess in the past, death was probably fairly common, actually. And, you know, there's a lot of chat about garlands. And I've never really come across garlands, but, you know, in churches, I suppose, or village halls for certain festivals, they'd make a garland of flowers. Yeah. And there's just some really, a lot of it really, really agriculturally tied. You know, like if you see a daffodil on this day, then your hens will produce loads of eggs, you know, or the corn cockle. That was a nice one where it's a beautiful plant, corn cockle. It's a pink. It's sort of, you probably actually notice the seeds more than you notice the actual flower. Really striking, quite tall. But they're really deadly poisonous. And so there was this whole ceremony of removing the corn cockle from the field at the beginning of the year when the germination had happened, that the whole village would have joined in with. And so a lot of it's tied in with agriculture, because obviously if you accidentally get corn cockle in with your wheat, it will, you know, be really dangerous. And so I quite love that, but also the stories of the witchy, gothy, you know, I was definitely a goth when I was a teenager, and so it's quite nice to lean into that a bit as you get older. I spent years pretending I wasn't, but now I love it.
Well, it's just all the names and things, because you think about like belladonna. I mean, maybe it's also just from like any books that had like witchy themes in them would always have like all of these plants that I hadn't heard of as a kid, and then now I realise are real things like mandrakes and belladonna and all of this kind of stuff. And it does have a kind of otherworldly, kind of mystical quality to it, I think.
It totally does. I mean, belladonna is so called because the story goes that women in, I guess it's Italy, would have squeezed the juice into their eyes to dilate their pupils. Wow. I don't know how much actual evidence there is for that. And it was really cool researching this book because I had this huge pile of like from Culpeper, who was not someone you should ever... Don't go to Culpeper for medical. He's like recommending teas made with foxglove. And you're like, what are you doing? Like, it's really interesting because this is a seminal piece of medical history. You know, as a physician, he was one of the go-to people, but it's just, wow.
It's interesting.
It's really crazy. But
because foxgloves do have medical applications.
They do.
But it's not something you should be trying to extract at home on your own.
You know, like I think foxglove was used for epilepsy. I think Van Gogh famously would have used some. And it is now used in digitoxin as a heart
medication somewhere.
Yeah, so it's like there is a lot of real medical use. But same with belladonna. So belladonna supposed to belong to the devil. I think the last day in April, I might be wrong about this, he leaves it. I think he guards it is the story.
Yeah.
So he leaves it for a day, and on that day you're able to dig it up. But any other day, the devil will stop you or whatever. I think you have to give like a blood offering when you dig up the belladonna. You have to leave some blood on the ground. So that's kind of all this folklore. Obviously, it's very poisonous. It's in the tomato family, so it's very much like a padron pepper, where you'll get one really hot one with the padron pepper, and then mostly they're supposed to be quite sweet.
Yeah.
And with belladonna, it's that where you have one berry could kill an adult, but there might be loads of berries on there that you can eat and you'd be perfectly fine. It's just if you eat the wrong one. So it's got all of that, obviously really interesting, deadly, I find fascinating kind of history. But then it's also the Latin name for it is Atropa belladonna, and it contains two compounds. One's atropine, and I can't ever remember the name of the other one, but they're both used in sedation for operations. I think the atropine it stops salivation during an operation, and the other one I think is calming, and it slows the heart and makes your body less stressed during anaesthetic. But the other thing is atropine is a cure for nerve agent poisoning. So when the Novichok poisonings happened in Salisbury, atropine from belladonna is the cure. Wow. So it's like really cool.
There's so many. I mean, this is what I love about it, is that kind of like, yes, they're deadly, but within that, there's so many incredibly like active compounds that can be harnessed for I mean, it is. Yeah, it's really cool. It is really cool. I love all of that stuff. I just think it's so interesting. I think it's so interesting how disconnected we are, you know, even with writing a book about wildflowers, and I haven't had anyone kind of pushing back on it, but I have, you know, a lot of my colleagues, fellow gardeners would call these weeds, and because we've lost a lot of connection with our wildflowers and how they would have been, you know, eaten or used, or, you know, in everyday life. Definitely. We've forgotten.
I mean, what would you want the reader to take away from it?
I think a relationship with nature is what I'd want the reader to take away from it. You know, this is often my dog walks that have been written up, basically. But just going around the country or other countries whenever I've been working, or I think there is one holiday in there as well, where I've actually stopped and looked rather than just letting it wash in.
Element,
just really kind of, whether it's in an agricultural setting or a forest or a beach, just to kind of remember to form a relationship with the nature that's around you in that moment. I was in Sicily a few years ago in March, and we went into this amazing like wildflower area of the countryside. I think I took photos of 100 different wildflowers, and my mum's an incredible gardener, so I didn't really know what most of them were, but I came back and I sat down with her and we went through what we thought all of them were. And like that bit of the holiday is the thing I remember the most, and it's just that it's kind of being present. I think it's similar with anything that we learn to love in nature, is like spotting birds or anything that makes you be there and kind of feel like there's a little bit of magic in a place that, you know, isn't there all the time, and then you're kind of looking out for the seasons changing. And I mean, I'm going to be out looking for more wildflowers. I just like also knowing what things are and what they might be able to tell you. But I think this is it. This is, for me, this is like anchor points in my year. Yeah. I remember every one of these, not just for the research I did, but for that encounter that I had with that plant in that space.
And when it was and what that represents.
Yeah, and what was around me. And I remember that. I remember a lot more of the dog walks from that year because I found these plants and I was like, right, okay, picture of it, you know. And I just think it's really lovely to be more present, like you say. Yeah, and notice.
It's also how important wildflowers are as well. I think that's underrepresented, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. And with some of them, that was it. So that in each one, there is kind of how to recognise it, you know, where you'll find it. But then also there's what interactions it has with nature and other creatures, whether it's environmental interactions like dandelion, improving soil, bringing up nutrients from deep underground, or whether it's more of a kind of insect relationship. Yeah. And then there's a bit about its history and folklore as well. When you were at Horticultural College, was anything like this ever on what was it quite kind of like traditional? Did you see plants like this being talked about and the uses of them and where they might grow? Or was this like something you've kind of discovered yourself later on? I've definitely grown into discovering this. I have some really good friends who are medical herbalists who, you know, I just always caveat, I do believe in medicine from the GP. You know, I'm not a herbal only person, but I do find it massively fascinating how much crossover there is, you know, how much plants inform medicine. But at college, I was really lucky that we did actually have some elements of that. I mean, I studied botany and horticulture, so an awful lot of that kind of medical compounds, that the elements within plants which have active compounds, were taught as part of my studies as well. But as a gardener in my apprenticeship, nothing at all of that. Very practical. So I kind of feel like I'm lucky. I understand the resistance to that as well, because from a practical gardening point of view, who cares? It's just a weed and I need to get it out because I need to, you know, plant something else there. But I have learned more and more. I had a very big epiphany once a couple of years ago when I was making cough syrup with some, it's always women on courses pretty much. And we spent the day in the pouring rain in the autumn, collecting berries from the hedgerows, rose hips, hawthorns, sloes, blackberries, herbs from the garden like rosemary and thyme, and all antiviral, you know, antibacterial herbs, chopping them all up, boiling them all up, adding some sugar. We spent a whole day doing this and chatting, and I was learning from all these much older women about their histories with some of these plants. And then I came away with a bottle of cough medicine and I was like, this is why women shop, because there's this instinct to go out and gather. But I come away with a bottle of cough syrup and I feel fully fulfilled from my day, not feeling horrible guilt because I've bought loads of stuff that's been made in a sweatshop on the other side of the world, you know. And I feel like we if we can tap into those instincts, we'll have such a richer life. But what has happened is that probably like capitalism has tapped into those instincts for us, and we've forgotten.
It takes it away from you and sells it back to you, is what I'd say. And it would happen with air if they could stop you from being able to breathe.
It won't be long.
Frances, thank you so much. It's been honestly such a pleasure to have you here, and especially as our first guest.
It really has. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me as your first guest. I feel very honoured.
Hope you'll come back sometime. And definitely, I've got lots more I want to learn about wildflowers now.
Definitely.
It's been lovely to have a chat.
Thank
you so
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.